Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we saw how to make new functions in R. We started with the syntax of making any generic function, and then we made a real function itself which we call geo.mean, and then we ran the function by calling it in the R console. So let's run this function again and quickly recap how to call this function. So I passed a vector inside this function. Notice here that though I typed 4 numbers inside this function, it is actually just one object. That's because I have passed only one object in the function declaration right over here. Okay, we call this, and the geo mean of the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 is 2.213364. Well, in this session I'm going to show you 2 super useful tricks that you can use when you are writing your functions that is going to make your life so much easier with these 2 simple tricks. The first one. The first one is the use of 3 continuous dots after your function argument. See here, I have made another function called seqgen. It is nothing but the same sequence function, except that it can allow more than the set number of arguments that we have initially passed to this function. Let me show you how this works. So let me pass this function, run this function, and type seq.gen 2, 3. It's going to generate the sequence starting with 2 and ending with 3. Well, this is too simple, so let me generate a bigger sequence. It starts with 2 and ends with. If you notice, the first argument 2 corresponds to the first argument we have defined in the function, which is A, and the 10 stands for B. But after that, there are 3 dots over here. What does that do? It means in case any of your functions that you have used inside the defined function, say here seq a b comma dot 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 we have defined. So all the additional arguments that seq uses can also be passed in inside your seq.gen function when you call it. For example, I can do it like this: seq.gen 2, 10, the seq here takes the argument by, so I can define by as say 3, and it will generate the newly defined function. In simple words, whatever argument the inside function takes can be called from the outside function by using the 3 simple dots. Now for the second tip. Notice here, once we call this function, the output in our console printed the output by default. But this is not always desirable, because you may have many intermediate functions within your function that prints its own output. So you have too many unnecessary outputs printing into your console. To hide those outputs that you don't desire, you can simply add an invisible command and pass your function inside that. So now I will run this and call seq.gen again. It did not print any output. Let me pass seq.gen to another object, say B. Now B has this object, but when you run seq.gen, it does not print the output. That's super useful when you write your own functions.